If you want to get ahead in 7 Days to Die, you need to become a serious bookworm with progression tied now to unlocking new weapons, gear, items and more by finding enough magazines or special books of a volume. I've done a guide taking a look at the skills and what you need to know about leveling up, so go and check that out if you need more details. Today though, I'm going to go through some tips as I show you some best locations for books and magazines to level up on the NavZ map for Xbox, PlayStation and of course Steam 7 Days to Die 1.0. Find this video useful, maybe leave a like and let's go. So before we begin proper, just a little reminder that if you want to find more of a certain magazine, then your best thing to do is put points into whatever magazine that tells you to in your skills. Don't know what I'm talking about? If you take a look at the actual magazines tab, in the description it will show you exactly what magazine you're looking for to unlock a certain set of tools like maybe iron, steel and obviously mechanical things like augers. And then underneath you can clearly see it says to get more loot, go ahead and put points into -69. So if you really want to unlock something much quicker, you're determined to get that weapon, that piece of gear or just a perk, then absolutely do that. Put some points into strength and then focus on the actual perk points that you get under -69. Some of them will obviously be more expensive as you get on, but the first few should be only 1 point. And just remember, if the second one's not letting you buy it, then you need to put some points in the overall attribute of strength. And every unlock that you see with the magazines, that will give you a little hint or clue about what skill you should be trying to increase. So in your early days, before you got enough confidence and gear to take on more dangerous locations, mailboxes will be your friend. Loot every single one of them, as that's going to be the early chances of getting yourself some magazines. So small neighbourhoods, and yes, these tips will kind of still help you if you're on a procedurally or randomly generated map, as the locations I'm showing all have chances to spawn within that area. I'll explain in detail a bit more, but effectively you might find certain bookstores and they won't be in every single biome, they'll be in specific biomes areas only. Second most obvious is of course traders, and you should absolutely utilise your dukes in early game if you're lucky enough to find the basics like a cooking pot so you can get water instead of having to buy one, and go ahead and spend them on some of the magazines you get. But quests are going to be the best way, as a lot of the quests that you get from them will often give you a bundle, a box of books as a reward. So early game, quests and neighbourhoods with mailboxes, that's your best bet for getting lots of books. So once you're ready, it's time to go back to school, as obviously filled with books, this is the place to go. Although the classroom sometimes can be a bit hit or miss, you still will find little piles or little bookcases. High schools especially will have more chance of dropping magazines and books. There are definitely some schools tougher than others, with normally a big cache of weapons and stuff either in the main gym hall or certain parts. But if knowledge is what you're really looking for, look for the libraries or the small office areas, as these will have a ton more. There are 3 main schools in NavZ, each with their own difficulty level, with Grover High probably being the toughest one, so maybe leave that one if you do come across it until you're well equipped. There are a couple of kindergartens in the game as well, but I found they didn't have as many books. Books aren't just in buildings, absolutely make a beeline for any of these Moe's trucks that you see. They're normally to do more with electrical equipment, but they will have loot inside. And in general, anything with a Moe's name on it will have a lot of electrical stuff, either traps, wiring, that kind of gear, and there's quite a few outlets which we're going to cover. One of the better places is Moe's electronics stores. These will have a ton of components that you might need or want, but more importantly, more opportunities to pick up magazines and books. Every magazine that I got from this place though was to do with tech, like I said, wiring or setting up electric traps. So if you're interested in getting your electronic skills and stuff unlocked, absolutely make sure you always loot one of these places. Generally, buildings and places or locations in the Wastelands don't maybe have as much defined loot everywhere. Instead, there'll be certain books or boxes that you need to go and try and find, pretty much like a parkour challenge. This is something I kind of started to realise how well actually a lot of the points of interest are made, with little hints and Easter eggs dictating where there might be some secret loot, either in a locked room that eventually you might find a way in, or on top of the roofs with enough jumping. So Moe's factory pretty much in the Wasteland here, that's what you're looking for, is this service vehicle. Obviously I've been flashing up the coordinates on the screen. This one, Moe's factory outlet, pretty much is a Wasteland area again. It's going to be tough getting lots of good resources out of this. It's quite a large building. I would actually focus on any service trucks you might find outside. I didn't find any kind of loot downstairs in the basements, but I did find some in the offices above. And particularly looking for a locked office that you might find some chests in, as well as the rooftop. But yeah, not as many bookshelves or anything like that. So just because you do see the Mo sign on it, this one's a real mixture of components and books. Okay, back to the more obvious ones, and definitely now really getting good. Well, once we explain this kind of rubbish one. In the Midwest part, desert town, you'll find Cole's books. And compared to the next set I'm going to show you, this is kind of weak sauce. But there are some book piles and boxes to go and get. I guess cowboys don't like reading as much as city folk once you get into the office part. But yeah, easy to miss as it does just look like almost a normal residence. It will have maybe a cracker book box and yeah, some small piles. Before we move on to maybe the more obvious book cafe and stores, the UFO Museum's actually got a great supply of books and magazines. Albeit very creepy and some cool stuff, but yeah, I'll leave the rest of it for you to find out yourself. Now we're into the real good stuff. Going to a cracker book is going to give you so much knowledge. If you can put up with the dangers, these do get significantly harder. But yeah, absolute tons of books on shelving all around. You should find plenty of cracker book boxes as well. And obviously it's going to be filled with zombies, but hopefully you can drag them out. You can see it's only actually a 2-star level zombie area. It's not as large as the first cracker book place, but the one that you find in the Wastelands or country is actually pretty good still. It does make up for its size with still a ton of book shelving and book piles to get. And even better, it is only a 1 zombie level place, although you may get more of the charred and burned. Things do ramp up though when you find the Cracker Cafe, and this has got even more books as it's a huge bookshop and cafe littered with shelving and piles. Don't forget to check out the back areas as well, as you'll find more storage boxes. And as always, bring your lockpicks or your skills or something to break into some of these more reinforced chests. It's an absolute huge building, almost 2 buildings joined together, so you might need to access through the cafe before eventually making your way through to the actual bookshelf areas. As you can see from the zombie ranking, it's a pretty tough place to actually loot. But definitively the hardest and toughest place to explore is the Cracker Book HQ. You might not want to do this all in one go, instead maybe just taking out the lower level, especially in the reception area where you'll find some book shelving. And relatively speaking, even though it's a really tough place, there aren't as many actual opportunities to get books and magazines as you find in some of the other Cracker Book places. If you go up to the upper floors, there'll be one distinct office that has got a good amount. The rest of our offices were kind of light. There wasn't really anything on the ceiling, on the roof at least anyway. A few other places to check out: municipal buildings, anything that says government, governors, and certain types of office buildings, like anything to do with advertising, you might find a few piles. So it is really important that you start specialising when you can in terms of what books you want. Sink your points into the attributes and the perks so that you've got more chance of finding the magazines. One last word on the volumes: double check you don't just read the same volume over and over again. You do gain XP even if you have, but it's much more valuable to go and sell it. There will be a little open book sign symbol on a book, so you'll know whether or not you've read it or not. Once you've read all the books in a series, it should start dropping other types of books. And they are randomly generated as well. There doesn't appear to be any way to really make them actually spawn in more, unlike the magazines that can increase by your perk skills and what you put into them. And don't forget that the magazine levels that get given, even if you're not hitting a milestone that unlocks like the new tool set, you still get the bonus of getting maybe another level of quality in building your actual gear you've got. So yes, if you've hit a milestone in your magazines, or even if you haven't, double check you haven't gained another level, so it'll be better to go ahead and craft a new set of tools, as it will be a higher quality level. As I said at the start of the video also, if you're on a procedurally generated map or one of the more bigger, larger pre-gen maps, yes, it will be a bit tougher finding some of these locations, but not impossible. Cole's bookshop will only appear in deserts, in the Wild West little towns. Mo's factory, as well as his component area, that will all be in the Wasteland, with it just being a bit more difficult to find some of the Cracker Book locations, as they can appear in any large town. But the HQ will obviously only spawn in a city, given the size of the skyscraper. I've been using some cheats on PC to show this off. Obviously on console, sadly there is no commands, so you can't use the POI checker. Remember, you can activate cheats via the menu console and then just use the creative menu to spawn in books or boxes of them for whatever reason. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has, leave a like, check out the rest of my guides. What do you want to see me work on next? And I'll see you ratbags later.